I didn't start my own company to like pretend I'm someone that I'm not. And I still fully serve my clients and listen to their needs and show up as my own bubbly, gregarious, self. And those are the people who are my people. If people don't like that, then they can, call in their own, potential partners for their business service.
Today, we're excited to introduce Leslie, a marketing powerhouse whose journey has spanned from the vibrant streets of NYC to the stunning peaks of Steamboat. With 25 years of experience at iconic publications like Harper's Bazaar, as well as new business director in a quirky Soho and ad agency, Leslie has a knack for transforming small businesses into unforgettable brands. In 2016, her and her partner Daniel launched Hive 180, where Leslie's superpower shines as the ultimate client whisperer. With her energetic charm and rock and roll attitude, she helps businesses discover their authentic voice and stand out in the marketplace. When she's not busy crafting killer strategies, Leslie enjoys Colorado's outdoors and planning her next concert adventure. Get ready for an inspiring conversation as we explore how Leslie is shaping the future of branding, one remarkable story at a time. And thank you so much, Leslie, for being here today. It is such a pleasure to have you. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, so I'm so glad we finally have the opportunity to sit down and have you share your journey of entrepreneurship. So thank you first and foremost for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I agree. It's been a long time coming, so I'm really excited to share.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here. And, I know your journey has been so interesting and fascinating. And I would love for you to kind of give us a little bit of the cliff notes of how you got here today. What has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, well, I started my career in New York City. I could not get there quick enough from college. And so, not to age myself, but back then it was before the internet. So, I started in publishing and I worked at publications like Harper's Bazaar and Condé Nast Traveler. And so, back then, marketing was print ads. So, I worked with a lot of international brands and helping them reach their target market through print advertising in those publications. And then we would do added value and events and different ways for them to interface with the public. So then I ended up working for a small Soho ad agency where I was new business director. And I've always been really extroverted and enjoyed interacting with my potential clients. And I've never really thought of it as sales because I've always just seen the value in what I'm offering. And so either people need that or they don't. And if they need it, then I'm excited to talk about it and hear what their goals are and have it be a collaborative process. So I did that for several years and then I got busy with children and family, but came right back to the agency world when I moved to Colorado and worked for a different agency where I basically did everything. It's where I learned about web development and had more hands-on graphic design experience to then take my marketing degree and apply it in those mediums. It's where I met my current business partner, and we have had our own company, Hive 180, for 9 years. So it has been, just sort of one of those unfolding evolutions.
I love it. And it's just been such a not really a linear journey. Like you had a little twists and turns here and there, but like every step got you closer to where you are today. And I love that. And I know a big part of what you put out there in the world is about branding and how it's really different. And I want to know how it is the approach that you and Daniel have when it comes to Hive 180, how that approach is different than a lot of other agencies out there.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to speak to that. And yes, to comment on what you just said, it has sort of not been a direct line. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs where I just kind of share a philosophy that if you just keep taking aligned action in a direction that feels right for you, a lot of people who have huge successful businesses or product launches or any sort of success, never really woke up that day and said, I'm going to do this, right? They just sort of took one step of aligned action every day and then it unfolded. So I didn't say to myself 20 years ago, I'm going to own my own branding agency. But as I kept listening to my own intuition and doing what felt good and you know what I was good at, it evolved. So our unique process is that we really, so branding is an all-encompassing term. A lot of people think it just means your logo, but really a brand is how you communicate about your business. It is not just the physical tactile pieces like your color palette or your font or you know even your imagery, but it's even how you, it's all the energy around your business and how that is put out into the world on all the different mediums. So the way that we work with businesses, and I work with a lot of certified professionals. That is kind of my most saturated market, even though I've worked with nonprofits and other businesses. And so doctors, lawyers, builders, architects, consultants, therapists, um, and they you know have a very specific clientele and they need to come off as professional, but also they all sort of have their own unique goals and pain points. So I always try and come from a very strategic place. Everyone we work with does what we call our brand buzz, which is a deep dive 2 hour conversation where I just ask about 50 questions and do a lot of listening. One example would be I have a builder who has been in business for 20 years, but he just was feeling like all they were attracting was renovations and additions. And he really wanted to be building the luxury marquee custom homes. So, you know, that was something that I pulled out of him through this strategic interview that sometimes people don't even realize what they do and don't like about their clients or their customers or who they're attracting. And, you know, there you don't have to work with everybody who calls you and wants to give you money, right? There can be a process of really choosing the right partner. So I talk to my clients a lot, whether they've been in business a short time or a long time, about who their dream client is. I help them to dream big and say it doesn't mean you can't still take the renovation people, but what if we marketed you and branded you like that's who you are? You are the builder of these multi-million dollar marquee custom homes. And why do you like those people? They have an unlimited budget. They value your expertise, you know, all of those things. So I identify the dream, the pain points, and then make all of my recommendations with that end goal in mind. And then whatever tools I believe as a marketing expert they need to reach that end goal. So deliverables typically include web development and branding elements are logos, but we are very cognizant of color contrasting for accessibility and file formats that translate from print to digital. To do you need a vehicle wrap? Do you need these for your social media? Do you need, you know, headers for social media? Are you going to be more on LinkedIn? Are you an Instagram person? If so, do you want to do Canva yourself? Can I give you, you know, a branding guideline for Canva and a dozen starter posts? So, you know, do you do a lot of press releases? Maybe you need a template for that. So I really, you know, identify what I think are going to be the best solution tools for them. And then I provide everything in a really turnkey way where they can own those tools and manage it on their own and that they're not reliant on us for long-term support. We remain available, but really it's, I want to empower them to run their own business.
I love it. And it's that solid foundation that you give them so they can continue to build upon that and empower them to do it because it can be overwhelming. Hear it all the time. They're like, oh, I don't know how to use Canva. Like when I go to some meetings, people are like, what's Canva? Or like people know what it is or just don't know how to like maneuver it. And I think it's just giving them the tools in order to do that. And I would love for you to walk us through what it looks like to really work with you in that rebrand and why small businesses might want to do so.
Yeah. So after we do the brand buzz strategy session, I put together a brief that I send back over to the client. It's a multi-page document that outlines kind of here's your current situation, here's your target market, your buzzwords, your pain points, and here's all of our findings and recommendations. And then here's what it looks like if you choose to work with us on those solutions, which majority do. Um, but even just that brief alone is useful for them. And then we work under an intensive model. So what's really fabulous about that is instead of working on like 20 clients, so I'm constantly shifting gears and checking email and being like, wait, what was I doing again? We fully immerse in that individual client. So I'm just in their brain, I'm in their mode, I've got their files open, I'm doing all their things. And so I prepare everything for them together with Daniel. And then we do a couple of days where we ask them to be available for meetings. And so we start with what we call our magic hour, where we unveil, the excitement of here is the look and the vibe we're thinking. What do you think? And, all the information from the brand buzz we've already both agreed upon. So it's an iterative process where we already have their buy-in on that. They're like, yes, this is perfect, or let's tweak this. And so we're in agreement. And so during that next stage, we show them, sometimes there's mood boards involved, and we have maybe 2 or 3 different looks that we think would work. We're happy with
Mhm.
whatever we present. So, hey, here's a couple different vibes that might work for your audience. What do you think? And then we go, okay, we're going to go back, and finish these couple things, come back on at 3 o'clock or whatever. And so we usually do like a 2 to 3 day presentation. And by the end of day 3, they get everything. I teach them how to use the Canva. I teach them how to update and edit their website. We give them all their business card files, all their logo files, or whatever their tools are. If we've set them up with, social media assets, whatever they need. And so the excitement is that it's a very quick turnaround. So if people hire me next week, within like a month, depending on our schedule, even if they're like, oh, we're not doing your intensive for a month and a half, they just know at the end of that window, they're going to have everything. So under our old way we used to work years ago, I mean, things draw on for months and people are like, wait, where were we? What were we working on? Or they give me things piecemeal. So people are obsessed with this process. It is so productive and it is so exciting to just have all of your tools all at one time and then just be ready to go with your brand.
I love it. And I think that's what it's about, right? Because you're right, like piecemealing it, like for months in between, you don't get that like concept right away when you have it key turn what you said earlier as well of just, okay, here's everything you need. Let's work through it. Have 2 to 3 days to really see everything and then you can run with it. You're not like, oh, wait, what was that thing? Or what was that color, that font? Like, because I've done that before. I've had like a brand strategist years ago and I'm like, wait, what was the color again? But it's like
Yeah.
having it just done right then and there. It's fresh in your mind, and then it becomes just a staple because then you know, okay, this is what I'm doing day in, day out. These are the colors, this is the brand, this is the vibe, the tone, and just how you present yourself because you are a walking, your personal brand is, even if you have like a company, it's still you. People are buying you versus the service sometimes. And that's what even working with doctors, lawyers, therapists, architecture firms, all the different capacities that might not showcase that brand right away of like them, but bringing that into, they can still be professional, but also show who they are. And I feel like you do such a beautiful job from just the clientele that you work with, and just even you see it on your website as well, like testimonials and everything else that you put out there in your energy. But it goes back to like the brand authenticity because I think that's something we deeply talked about when we had met up one day. And it was just
Yeah.
talking about how we really show up. But what are some of the practical tools businesses can discover and articulate when it comes to their authentic voice in a crowded marketplace that we have?
That is a fantastic question and one that I just love so much. And I think part of it just, it takes some internal work and some self reflection to really sit with what are your own personal values and also what you maybe do and don't like about your industry. So I know obviously, you want to stand out amongst your competitors, but I also think the way that we can be the most authentic in business is to identify how we differ from them and what we don't like. Like, for example, I don't like the way some traditional agencies work where they show you just your logo in a vacuum. Well, I mean, your logo can just look a very particular way, but it's never going to be in a vacuum, just plain. So I show it to them, whether it's on a mug, on their website, in the wild, as we call it. And everything, has a reasoning behind it. But I think, if you are clear, like, let's say you're a financial advisor and maybe you think that your industry is very conservative and very dry, and maybe you have a great sense of humor and you like to be playful, and it doesn't have to, denigrate at all the part that you're very fiscally responsible and people should definitely trust you with their investments, to have part of your authentic personality come through in your marketing and branding. And if someone's offended by that, good. They're not your person. They can definitely go to a more corporate, selection and choose someone who is gray pinstripe suit, very straight laced, straight faced, and that feels good to them. They're not your people. So I think, when you can first be honest with yourself and then allow your personality to come into your branding, you're going to attract your people. And I think in today's market, obviously what entrepreneurship looks like has shifted exponentially. And you know that because you talk to people from every industry every day. We work from our homes, some of us, and we, have changed sort of the rules around how we have to show up. And I think more and more who we are as humans, we don't have to put ourselves in a box and be like, oh, I'm this person from 9 to 5, and then I'm myself after. I mean, I didn't start my own company to like pretend I'm someone that I'm not. And I still fully serve my clients and listen to their needs and show up as my own bubbly, gregarious, self. And those are the people who are my people. If people don't like that, then they can, call in their own, potential partners for their business services. But I think first being really clear on, your own values, and those are some of the questions that I ask as well in my strategy session, is really to get to the heart of their own authentic goals in running their business, even if it is an industry that used to be thought of as maybe a little more conservative.
Yeah, and I think it's changed so much in the last few years. I think COVID changed a lot of things of just how people present themselves or just the shift in dynamic of, so especially like doctors and lawyers and therapists and other things that are more on the professional side and whatnot, but being able to really lean in. I just talked to a dentist earlier today and just like how she's changing the industry for where she's at as well. And I think that's a big part of it. It's bringing your own voice into it, and not everyone's going to be the right fit, and you don't want everyone to be the right fit because we can't serve everybody, because if you're serving everyone, you're serving no one, essentially, right? Like that's with branding. I mean, I'm not a branding expert, but I do know that. And that's
Absolutely. Niching is key because when you're clear on who you serve best, then you can speak directly to them and you're more effective and efficient in your marketing, right? If I'm just like, I do websites, I mean, I can do all kinds of websites, but knowing the ones that I really are my best fit client helps me speak more directly to them, even in my own branding. And same for you, right? I mean, even for guests on this show, you work with entrepreneurs and you speak to founders, and that's really specific and that's super helpful. And so, no, you don't interview corporate CEOs because that's not who you're talking to. So it's clear, it's good to have clarity.
Yes, I believe that too. And I think it can evolve as well. Like, because we were just having a conversation of just like niching down in the therapy world of just how, okay, well, what does my clientele look like? What is that going to transpire to? And in the beginning, it's sometimes you go broad because you're like, well, what do I best serve? And sometimes it changes as we evolve, what we bring in evolves as well. And just there's a lot of adapting to it in the industry, especially in the tech world, I would say, especially in the tech world. But, going back to you and just the significant leap that you made in starting and launching with Daniel Hive 180, what lessons did you learn in embracing change and pivoting in your professional journey?
Ooh, that is a whew, yeah, there's a lot there. So we had the gift of working together at our last job. So some people, when they start a new business with a potential business partner, they don't really know what that person is like to be in business with. So we've coined a phrase that we call breakaway brands. So that's another part of our niche that we really love, working with breakaway brands. So let's say you worked at a big architecture firm and then you're going out on your own as, a solo architect. Or, we've worked with a lot of people who are worked at a big law firm and then started their own law firm, stuff like that. But so we were the original breakaway brand. And so one of the, challenges could have been, how do we work together and what are our roles? So we built on the foundation of knowing each other's strengths from our previous job. Certainly, figuring out logistics. We at the time had a brick and mortar office and, envisioned having employees. We went through phases where we had employees and then decided that that isn't our sweet spot, that we for lack of a better word, we're a little bit of control freaks, that as the owners, and we just felt really, I wanted to be the one talking to the clients and he wanted to be the one touching every piece of code and every, design element. So we determined that what was more profitable and productive for us was to not have staff, and that we wanted to scale in different ways. And so that was, just growth and experience and challenges, just to get started. And then, sometimes when you are a breakaway brand, sometimes the place that you choose to leave might not be rooting for you or happy about it. And so we made a commitment that we would not, take any clients with us, that we, would do our own thing. And if they, happen to call us up and want to work with us, that we would, be happy to receive that. But we didn't, we worked really hard to be incredibly, ethical and feel super great about, leaving our last agency. But it's been 9 years and we haven't looked back. But yeah, I would say some of our biggest growing pains were around the staffing. And then also, when you first start out, you had mentioned that sometimes your niche can evolve. In the beginning, we just took any work that came to us. We were like, oh my gosh, we started our own company. We need to earn a living. And so even if it was just designing a small business card, or, just doing a standalone logo. And what we've learned is that the businesses who we can serve best is when we can really come from a strategic place and build an entire brand, and not just kind of one piece in the vacuum. And some advice I do give to even clients that we've learned through our own business evolution is that you really need to work in a particular niche before you decide that that's who you want to work with, right? So I didn't just say I want to work with certified professionals doing their branding and web development. And I decided that because those were the clients that I loved the most. So I just talked to somebody the other day who I actually told her she's not ready to hire me or anybody yet, because she's starting a new business and she wants to be a writer, but she doesn't know. I said, well, do you want to write website copy? Do you want to write press releases? Do you want to write journalistic content? Do you want to write blog posts? Like, I just asked her about, and she just didn't know. And I said, I would recommend that you just go out there and dip your toe in a bunch of different styles of projects and keep a journal about what you did and did not like about each project. Did you like the content? Did you like how you communicated with the client? Did you like that they paid you flat rate versus hourly? All of these elements. And then from there, you can sit down with that data and go, oh, this is the sweet spot. This is what I like. This is where I have a higher profit margin. And so I think with any industry, it's also not what you think you're supposed to do, but what brings you happiness.
Yes, no, oh my gosh. You're speaking my language because I think a lot of times it's so easy to be like, okay, well, this is what I should be doing, or this is what's expected, or like starting too soon. Like I ended up hiring a business coach when I wasn't ready to hire a business coach when I first started about 8 years ago. And part of that was it was because I was like, well, this is what you do. I should hire one because that's what everyone online is saying. And I wasn't ready for that because I didn't know what my niche was when I started coaching. I was just like, okay, well, I'll try this, I'll try that. And it's like, it was a good investment in the sense of like, I learned a lot. But I think that's part of it, right? And understanding that you are so based in integrity and ethics when it comes to clientele of you're not just going to take on anyone, you're going to listen to them, but then you're going to be like, look, this isn't the right fit. And that's part of being a client whisperer that you are, and like the ultimate one from what I've seen, what I've heard. But
You.
I'm really, really curious. What strategies do you use to build that trust and rapport with your clients, especially in high pressure situations, dealing with certified professionals, things along those lines?
Yeah, I I am honest. I am blunt and direct and honest.
Yes.
And so I if I have concerns right up front, I just say to people, look, I think it's best if we're both super open about our concerns so that if we do decide to work together, there's no surprises. And so, I mean, I had a call with somebody last week who runs a nonprofit. I have a ton of experience in the nonprofit realm, and I was very transparent. And I said, look, you have to have autonomy to make decisions if this is going to work for us. We don't work with entities that then have to go back and say, oh, well, now I have to show my board. And then 8 board members who haven't been part of our strategy session, who are going to have 8 different opinions and not understand the foundation from which we've built your strategy, are going to go in and go, well, we don't like blue, we want green, or, it just, I've learned from trial and error that doesn't work. So I was very transparent and I said, if you have an over-involved board who does not give you autonomy to make decisions, then we probably will not want to take on your project. And so when you're willing to walk away, or when you're that direct about your concerns, people are like, oh, okay, she's not just trying to, like, sell me something. I explain it's a partnership. And so I expect the same from them. And I also tell people, look, if you talk to someone else who does similar services and you feel like you resonate more deeply with them, then that's what you should do. And so um I think that level of directness and honesty is how I build trust. And I mean, we're really good at what we do, and we have a lot of success stories, so I can share examples of how we've helped businesses grow and provided them with really useful tools. And I think I offer a lot of clarity around their questions, and all of those things build trust.
Absolutely. And I think that's spot on. It is about building that trust with them and being direct because you don't want to waste each other's time. And also, if it's not the right fit, at least you know right off the bat, you're like, okay, these are the things I've seen. And it's from your experience too. It's not just you woke up one day and was like, okay, this is everything. Like it took time to build that over time and depending on the clientele that you're working with in the beginning to now. And especially when you're starting a business, it's really easy to just take on anybody because you're trying to grow it and you need to survive. You need an income, especially if you're like us, where you just took the leap and you're like, all right, let's figure this out. Build the
Right.
wings on the way down.
Right, right. And some of that is growth, and you learn through trial and error, right? And so it takes, I mean, I have some nightmare stories of, I had a client who begged me to work with them, and I knew my gut told me it wasn't a great fit. It was someone I knew personally for a really long time and really sort of bullied me into taking their project. And I did, and it took forever, and they were non-responsive, and they didn't come to the table with feedback. I mean, like I said, it has to be collaborative, and it's your brand. So I take what you tell me and I build, but you need to, have input. And this
Yeah.
person didn't honor our deadlines, and we were like, look, we're gonna, you know, not partner with you anymore. I mean, I would hate to say I fired a client, but I tried to, and she just continued to say, please, please, please finish the project. I'll do better. I'll give you more money. I'll be more responsive, all the things. And it just, in the end, it didn't work well for anyone. It took, over a year to do something that could have taken 3 weeks. And so we learn from those experiences. And now I really just trust myself, a lot more than I did many years ago. I really just trust myself. If it doesn't feel good, then don't take it on. Because I mean, I only want to work for clients that love us and that it goes amazing. Doesn't everybody? I mean, let's be honest. That's what you want. So if you already can see the red flags that it's not going to be awesome, why would you work with those people?
It's just like dragging your feet too, like through the mud, and you're just like, this is not working. I used to see it a lot, like in a lot of different industries I've been in, and just like when I've taken on a client in many respect or a customer, and I'm just like, this is not going well. Like you feel it in your gut, and it's like, trust the gut. And then I don't make that same mistake again because I like see the red flags a little sooner. But you want to be kind, you want to be this, you want to be that, and then at the end of the day, it's yes, it's money, but like what's the value in that? Like, what is it taking away? Your energy, your time, your mental status, sometimes, depending on how severe the client is and the situation. But I know there's a lot of other challenges that come into play. What are some of the common challenges that small businesses face when trying to establish their brand identity? How can they overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on sort of what people's experience is with investing in branding, I think people just don't know. They're like, how much should I be spending on this? Should I be doing advertising? Do I need to be on social media? How do I think people can find it super overwhelming. Like I had a call with a realtor today who said, oh my God, I have to be on social media and I feel super overwhelmed and I don't even know how to do it. And I was like, listen, everything can be done in digestible bites, right? So, first of all, you don't have to wake up one day and all of a sudden do like 10 reels and stories and Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and blogs and an electronic newsletter. I mean, I try and explain to people to do what sounds fun and manageable. It should not be a burden. I want this to be one of the most fun parts of people's business. I mean, accounting is stressful, right? I don't ever want branding and marketing to be stressful. And I'm never going to make somebody do, things that they don't want to do, like write for blog posts. Again, I think it is super helpful to work with a professional who can help you hone in on your goals, but also remember to take a step back and really think about your target market. So instead of just I have to be all these places, well, do you? So who are you speaking to before you hone your message? So I think a lot of small businesses are like, I do house painting. So I just have to, be in, all these advertising places or all these things. And I have to make the signs and I have to do this and that. But, well, do you want to paint only interiors or interiors and exteriors? Do you have a geographic region? Do you only want to do single family homes? Do you paint developments, right? So being really clear on who you're speaking to before you just start randomly doing a bunch of things, I think is good advice for small businesses.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good advice because you're right. Like sometimes it becomes very overwhelming. I know when I started, there wasn't as many social media platforms, but it was still like I have to be on everything. And my clients weren't everywhere. It was really focusing and getting clear on where your clientele is, where your target audience is, and how you can narrow in and put more energy into the places that you know you're going to be found. And I know you've worked with so many clients, but I would love to hear a client success story or two that you would like to share today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many wonderful ones. So I did mention that we work with some nonprofits. I mean, one of our, I gave the example of the builder who really wanted to hone in on the luxury custom homes versus renovations. So one that comes to mind is a nonprofit who we just got to do an entire rebrand for, which was really amazing. This executive director did have autonomy. And her board was not involved in the decision, but they had a really broad audience. So they did work in this is up in Steamboat Springs where we used to live, but they did work in a bunch of different sectors. So they had a local food market where they also had worked with ranchers. It's called the Community Agriculture Alliance. They worked with ranchers and water rights and also all the local food vendors that sold food through their market, whether it was eggs or honey or beef. And so they worked with, some government entities. They worked with educating the local consumer community as well as working with sort of what we'll call the B2B industry people. So having the people who are doing farming in the region understand what are the laws and how do we communicate with the public, or if somebody was new to the community and coming in and buying a ranch, how could you help them understand all of the evolving landscape. And so it was such a diverse audience, and we wanted each of them to take different actions. So that was really the
Yeah.
challenge, was part of the fun, and also creating a cohesive brand
Yeah.
that had elements that offered consistency and then clarity around the entity, because also they wanted to target, funding sources, whether that was grants or personal donations or foundations donating to them. So for those entities to fully understand what the benefits of giving to that organization was. So I mean, I enjoyed that sort of more in-depth challenge of all the different layers. Um, and then on a lighter note, I had a law firm who had come from a different state, and they had gotten licensed in Colorado, and they were opening a Colorado office. And so their original office was in Miami. And so down there, they had way different clientele and way different services. So we wanted to build a website for them that encapsulated both of their geographic destinations and their different legal service offerings that still looked appealing to the Colorado market and to the Florida market. And so that was really, really fun to, ensure that their firm had consistent branding, clarity that they offered exclusive services in these two states, and that some of their attorneys were licensed in different states, but still show the breadth of the practice as a whole. So those are just, a couple of different ways that some of the challenges, and then, that we were able to display all of those answers clearly. When someone comes to your website, you want to be really clear about what action you want them to take, right? Like, so for me, I'd love for them to look at our work if that's of interest to them, but really I want them to book a fit call with me, right? So I have get started, call to action buttons. I want them to book a 15-minute call, because I just think talking to me is a clearer way to understand if we're a fit right away or not. And so let's say somebody is a therapist and I'm helping them build, a practice website. I would say to them, do you want your potential clients to automatically book an initial consult with you to see if they're a good fit? Let's embed a calendar. Let's block your schedule. And maybe you only have certain days of the week that you do consults. We can have that all readily available so people feel like they get an immediate response. If they're looking at this at 11 at night, they don't have to wait till the next day, or they don't have to, fill out a form and wait for you. And so depending on the goals, always being really clear on what the call to action is.
Yes. No, it's so important. I love the diversity and the layers that you bring in, from the nonprofit to the law firm to therapists to builders, like all the different capacities. But it's really being able to merge it together where it makes sense, because I think that's so important when it comes to brand identity. Because if it's not clear I mean, I struggled with this the first few years of business. It still comes in and out, but I think part of that is you have to be so clear on who you're speaking to and be able to really have that transaction of like, okay, I know exactly who they are, what they stand for, the vibe, the energy, and you're able to pull that out and be able to showcase that for these different types of brands in ways that maybe they don't, and that's not their expertise a lot of the time. Like that's not my expertise. I know that. I'm fully aware of that.
One
But
of my favorite jokes is, sure, I could do my taxes, but it gives me so much pleasure to pay my accountant to do that because that's where she's an expert, right? So,
exactly.
I think certified professionals know that they are experts in their lane and we are in ours. And so that's where the collaboration magic happens. And to your point, when somebody comes to your website, you want them to be like, oh, they are for me, or they're not, right? Like you want it to be very clear when someone comes to your website that they are speaking to you. So,
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more because it's confusing if you don't know. I mean, that was my story. But, I think outside of all the work that you do, because you have a very vibrant career, you're helping so many people, how do you really maintain that work-life integration? And what advice would you give other entrepreneurs that are maybe struggling with that?
yes. Well, I have a I was not always this way. Again, back to the learning through experience. I have a very vibrant personal self-care practice. I exercise almost every day. I wake up early. I enjoy the morning. I like to lift weights. I like to walk outside. On the weekends, I like to hike, and in the winter, ski. I do breath work and journaling. And I have found that when I'm my best self and when I'm prioritizing me, I can then do my best work. And there were years where I did not invest in my own personal growth and self-care and probably, wasn't operating at my best. And sleep is like my number one. Like if I could only do one thing for myself, it would be like sleep 8 hours a night. I mean, it makes such a huge difference to our brain and our bodies and our ability to function. And I think, when you're building a business, just remember that, you're in it for the long haul. It's not a sprint. And, it's okay to go slow. And instead of feeling so focused on the end point, right? I'm working with a business coach, and this is one of my favorite things that she has said. Entrepreneurs need to get out of the monthly financial mindset. So, what I mean by that is if you are paying yourself the exact same amount every single solitary month, you work for your business. So, really try instead to work on your business. And it's okay to think quarterly or annually. We all have expenses and have amounts we want to earn to support our life. But once I kind of realized, like, okay, let's just throw some random numbers out there. Let's just say you need to make $20,000 a month to cover your expenses. You might have a $40,000 month and then a 0 month and then a 30 month and then a 60 month and then 2 0 months, right? So as long as you're meeting your own needs, and back to that very beginning of our talk, just taking aligned action, right? Just staying true to who you are. And instead of thinking so far ahead, just be present in making the choices that feel good for your business now. And trust that by laying that foundation, it will unfold because you might, change your mind in 3 months who your dream clients are anyway. So, trusting yourself, taking care of you will just, it's better to build, like, you don't want to put the roof on the house before you laid the foundation, right? So going slow and being thoughtful and trusting yourself and taking care of yourself will help build the foundation that your business needs, and not give you that sort of you know hamster wheel energy which nobody wants.
No, definitely not. And, I just had this conversation the other day about like preventing burnout and like really being able to take care of ourselves. And that's why I think it's so important because like I've burnt out twice and now like going back into the therapy field and just even like managing solar company and everything else, really being present with, okay, what do I need to do today? Am I taking care of myself? And you do such a beautiful job of really focusing on you in order to show up powerfully for yourself, your family, your friends, as well as your business, like all those factors. And it's all encompassing. It's not just one entity, but it's how we show up and how we take care of ourselves. And I believe sleep is so important. I'm like learning to get like little cat naps here and there now.
You are
But
growing a person over there, so
yeah, those
by the
factors.
time this airs, you'll already have a baby. But
Exactly.
and when you do that, you just by attrition give other people around you permission to do that, whether it's your clients or your colleagues or, I think sometimes not to rabbit hole on the as women in the workforce topic, but I think sometimes as women too, we think that we have something more to prove. Like we have to just push and go and do. And I tend to operate from my masculine energy a lot. And sometimes I just need to be reminded to settle into the feminine. And we both have all those energies. So
Yes.
even men can be more in their feminine flow of just, having some more presence and understanding that things can kind of um, unfold slowly. And sometimes that is better than that, go get them
Yeah. And
energy, if that makes sense.
no, that makes perfect sense. And I feel like it evolves as we evolve in like different situations, different phases of life. It's going to change. And just even like don't know what the future looks like, but it's being able to be present and continuing to take, like you mentioned, aligned action and knowing, okay, like I'm on the right track. And it might, that next step puts you in a different direction that you would have never known, but you took that step. And I think that's a big part of it. And, just even with how the future unfolds, sometimes we don't always know what's going to happen. But when it comes to trends, I'm curious, do you see or know what the emerging trends are that when it comes to marketing and branding that entrepreneurs should be aware of and plan as they plan the future for their business?
Well, the latest trend that everybody is kind of getting worked up about is AI.
Yes.
And I am here to say that, yes, I do recognize and acknowledge that there are some industries where people feel like AI might take their jobs. But in marketing, I disagree completely. I think it is a trend. I think it is a tool. I think it is something that can help us build on the amazing work that we do. And I am fully embracing this trend. I think in my industry, it's important to always embrace new technologies. And one of the ways that we're utilizing AI in our business is to be very thoughtful with prompts. So, like, for example, the more information you can give a GPT about you and your goals and your business and your voice. I mean, I would never recommend going in there cold and saying, I want to write a blog post about, builders in a mountain climate. I would more write a blog post about that and then tell the GPT everything about the company. This is their ethos, their mission, their vision. Here's some examples of a bunch of copy off their website. Please act like a writing specialist and help me polish this blog. Here are a couple that we really love. And now here's the new one. Do you have any little flair or grammatical tweaks you would make to this post, right? So I think if you can learn to use it as a support tool, the same way all technology has made our lives easier, right? Look at it as a support tool that can help you be more efficient in your business and not fear it. Um, so that is one trend that I see. And I just think that there are going to continue to be so many more entrepreneurs. I mean, more and more and more, it's acceptable to start your own business, forge your own path. And I love that trend. And I see that trend continuing with more people working from home, flexible hours, not falling into the traditional Monday through Friday 9 to 5 expectation, and learning to be, productive in their own way and in their own vision. And so that is a trend that I like. a lot, and I am definitely calling in those types of partners to support
Yes.
because I think that can just make the world such a better place if we're all doing intuitive, heart-centered work, even if it's in a conservative realm, and putting our own twist on it. So I see those as, those are a couple trends I see.
Yeah, I see those too. And I think especially with AI, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's going to take over my job, but it's using it as a tool. And I'm glad you said that because I think that is so important in the capacity of knowing that you're not just copying and pasting, but actually using your voice, your tonality, your brand, your personality, like all those things all encompassing to make sure that it is like how you would write it. And you like change it obviously as you go, but using it to save some time and energy in the long run. And also that there are so many more entrepreneurs being born. And because a lot of people, the younger generations even, that are like, I don't want to work for someone. I don't want to do what my parents did, or vice versa, or just like that capacity of looking at there's a different way. You can have your own path. You can still be working 9 to 5 and do something on the side. And nowadays it's like you need multiple incomes just to like survive if you don't have a thriving business or the income's not as high as you would like, but every situation's different, of course. And just even with your experience of how you have been able to look at your journey that you've accomplished so much in your life, but reflecting back, is there any advice you give somebody who's maybe starting that entrepreneurial journey that you wish you would have known when you started?
That is a great question. I think that talking to as many people as you can who you admire and who you look up to, because I like this word expanders. Like if I see someone who maybe is in my field or in my industry or operates, even if they're in a slightly different industry, but operates from a place that I really admire, like I find that to be expansive. So just calling people up that you admire and asking them, going, hey, I want to have my own business, or I do something similar, or you're someone I just find really expansive. Like, what advice would you give me? Like tapping into the world around you and using mentors and people you admire for advice. And I didn't do as much of that as I could have, but I did have one or two people early on who I did sort of informational interviews. It's the advice I gave my daughter the other day, look up a bunch of industry, professionals who you really love what they do or you're curious about their job, and just ask them if they'd be willing to talk to you, because I love it when young people, reach out to me. I've had interns and or students who've, had questions about what we do and how we operate. And I just, love having those conversations, because I had one artist intern who thought she would love graphic design and realized, wait a minute, I don't like it. I don't like that clients are going to critique my work and sometimes say no, and I have to design sometimes for them, not for me. And so that helped her determine no to graphic design and yes to fine art. And I think it's really helpful for people to, just gather as much knowledge as they can. Like, right, this can just even refer back to our AI conversation. You could
Mhm.
ask AI all day long, what's it like to be a graphic designer, but it really can't tell you like a human can. So I think not being afraid to connect with people and just ask, and people will surprise you and show up for you and give you feedback, and um lessons maybe that you can learn from their growth experience instead of having to learn the hard way sometimes. So I wish that that was something that someone had told me in the beginning, and that's what I would the advice I would give.
Yes, I think that's so powerful because it's nothing like actually seeing the work, doing the work, talking to somebody who's actually in the field. Like I still talk to, like even up until a year ago or so, people would come to me, they're like, "Oh, you have your background in psychology. What was that like? What was that experience?" I'm like, "This is just my experience, but let me give you more referrals too to hear the different perspectives because it's not a one size fits all. It is really different depending on the industry, whether it's graphic design versus fine art versus something else, like how it can really transpire and looking at it as the more data you have, the more you can have a more informed decision. And I think it's so beautiful to like tap into our networks and communicate. And I'm all about connection and community. And I think that's what allows us to drive forward and continue to have that beautiful, fruitful life of just people that are around us and expansion. I love, or the expanders. I love that word. I'm going to use that now.
Please do. I definitely didn't make it up. I picked it up somewhere along the way. So
I love it. I love it. We'll continue to pay it
spread the
forward.
love.
And just speaking of moving forward as well, what do you envision the next few years look like for you, for Hive 180, how that really, you want that to continue to expand?
Yeah, so I would like to keep sort of calling in right fit clients who value our expertise and love our method of the deep dive strategy and the intensive model. I would like to continue to work with, certified professionals who are looking to grow and attract their ideal hive. And I think this intensive model, I just want to stick with it because it is allowing me to create freedom where I can, travel and take time off between projects. And also, being on podcasts has been so much fun. I love talking to different people and sharing ideas. And also, I have some, interest in doing speaking engagements. So I'd love to continue to pursue both of those as a way to just share what I've learned. And hopefully, there will be little nuggets of wisdom people will tap into that will be helpful for them. And so, I just, we will not be hiring employees. We'll just be growing as Daniel and I and doing what we do best and that's amazing for us. So,
I love it. And it's staying in your wheelhouse, knowing like what your sweet spot is. And, it goes back to the honey of like just that sweetness of what you do well, what Daniel does well, and how it really merges together to really have such a beautiful impact in your particular niche as well. And I think it's just the part of how it all comes together. But I've been so enjoying this conversation, Leslie. But where can people find you, find your services? We're gonna link everything below, but if you could let us know too.
yeah, absolutely. My website is hive180.com, Hive, the digits 180.com. And then nowadays I'm hanging out on LinkedIn more than the majority of social. And so my last name's Silverman, Leslie Silverman on LinkedIn, and reach out, connect, say hey, ask questions. I love talking to people. So I'm such an extrovert and as we grow, want to continue to be the person who talks to the people, even if we end up, outsourcing things to a VA or something like that. I just will never want to give up that part of my job because getting to know different people and help make their dreams come true in their business is like the most rewarding part. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for coming on and just sharing all your insights. I love what you are doing, the aspect of how it is so different, because I've talked to different types of branding coaches, strategists, website design, all the things, agencies, but how your approach is very unique and different to you. And that's what I love about all the people I get to talk to, but you in particular, of just the authenticity, it shines through just when I've spoken to you and seen you in so many different environments as well. So I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey with us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been so much fun.
Yes, likewise. I know. I always have such a great time with you. But make sure to like, subscribe, comment below. What was the biggest takeaway from Leslie today? I'm sure she would love to see that comment. And we will see you on the next episode.